Before we leave the library and list apps, I'd like to review the settings that are available to you for documents and libraries. In the next movie, we'll look at the settings that are available for items and lists. Some of these, of course, are features that you're going to learn about later in the course. It's important to know where these items are. Let's start then in this library by clicking on the Files tab of the ribbon, and you'll notice right away that in the New group, we have the possibility of creating a new document based on the default template, normally Microsoft Word, to upload one or more documents, or to create a new folder. Again, something I would encourage you not to do early on in the life of a SharePoint library. If I wanted to create a new document, I also have links here, and I can drag files here to import documents. When I select one or more documents, the rest of the ribbon comes to life. I have the ability to open a document for editing, and in the Open and Checkout group, I can also choose to check a document out, giving me exclusive permission to work with that document. You'll see more about the Open and Checkout settings in the next set of movies. In the Manage group, I have the ability to view the properties of the document and to edit the properties. For example, when I've added custom metadata columns like category, this is where I would change the category, either here by editing properties or by actually editing the properties here after switching into a datasheet view. I also have the ability to see who else shares a document and to delete the document provided I have permissions. The next section, Share and Track, and the last section, Tags and Notes, are both social networking features. I can share a document with others, I can see how popular it is, and by choosing to follow a document, I can have it show up in my news feed here, part of the social networking of SharePoint. If I wish, I can apply a tag to a document, much like the tags that we might use in Instagram or Twitter, and that way I can also have those tags show up in my news feed. So if I feel that a document, for example, is around a particular issue, like the No Obstacles Green newsletter, has a wonderful article about engaging children in greening, and I might want to simply include a tag that says children or youth. And that way I don't have to remember what version of the newsletter that content was in. It's one more way for me to keep track of the documents that I work with. In the Copies section, there are a couple of things going on here. One is I can download a copy of the document and work with it then in Microsoft Word. So if I click Download a Copy, I'm asked, do I want to save this? I can save it and open it and work with it. But please notice that that particular copy is not synchronized to this version of the file. So as the SharePoint site guide gets changed here in SharePoint, the information that I have in my copy will not be changed. And then there are some other tools that are interesting. I have the ability to send a copy to another location, and I actually have the ability to make this document the source for some other versions of the document. So I don't have to keep track of changes made to one. I can synchronize them one to the next. If I want this SharePoint site guide to appear on every single SharePoint site, I can synchronize all those copies back here. And you will learn more about how to work with documents and copies in that way in the part of this course on editing, saving, and sharing documents. Next, we see workflows. And workflows give us the ability to have a library execute a set of actions. For example, I might say that anytime there's a new document dropped into this library, we need to email the person who's in charge of it and say, hey, new document here, you might want to check it out. Now, they could easily accomplish that in some other ways, but I could actually have a workflow that has many different steps or stages where one person's notified that the document's here, someone else has to approve the document to be viewed by other people. Workflows are an incredible extension of the power of Microsoft SharePoint, and you will learn about workflows later in the course. So even though workflows are set at a library or list level, the ability to say, start the workflow for this document is a file command rather than a library command. Now let's take a look at our features that are based on libraries. On the left-hand side, we have all of the information about views. So you can switch to a quick edit view, back to a regular view. Create views, create columns. Whenever you want to work with views, this is a great place to do it. Next, we have the ability to share and track the entire library. What are the most popular items here? You have 500 documents. What are the ones people pay attention to? In the same way that I can apply a tag to a document, there's a tags and notes command here that allows me to tag an entire library. Connect to Outlook is almost a legacy command because it used to be that the easiest way for me to take a document library and synchronize it to my computer was to use Outlook to do that. That's no longer the case. We'll be looking at a feature called SkyDrive Pro. However, it's a way you could still use. Export to Excel doesn't necessarily do what you think it might. When you export to Microsoft Excel, it doesn't export all the documents. It doesn't know how. Instead, it exports this list, a great way to get a snapshot of all of the documents in your library. The Customize Library commands are advanced commands that allow you to go in and create different forms, do different kinds of editing. Those are high-end commands that we will look at much later in the course and only briefly in this course. Finally, in the settings group, we have all of the settings for the library. What is the name of the library, for example? What is the URL for the library? It's another way to access the ability to manage views that are also on the ribbon. I'm going to click Library Settings just so you can see the wealth of possibilities that are available here. Many of these items will be covered later in the course. And by the way, delete this document library actually works. But I want to show you, so you might not want to click it, but I want to show you that this is where you would provide, for example, a description for your document library. Finally, we can see who else shares this library, and we can see what workflows are available for the library as a whole. And this is also where one would add a new workflow if you wanted to add a workflow to this library. So an entire huge group of settings. Let's take the 50,000-foot view for a moment. If I'm talking about a particular file, I have a set of choices here on the callout and on the callout context menu. If the choice I want isn't there, then it will probably be on the Files tab of the ribbon. For libraries, many of these choices are duplicated in two places or more. The ability, for example, to share an entire library, to see who a library is shared with. The ability to look at the settings for views here, but also here. But this is where you will find the library settings in SharePoint. If the command you're looking for isn't on this tab of the ribbon, then click Library Settings to go to more settings that involve things like the columns and the views. That's it. A whole raft of settings that are available as you work with files and libraries, and you will learn even more about them in the rest of this course.